Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Call, and I'm with the Travel and Tourism Research Association. TTRA unites the best and brightest in the travel and tourism industry, and we are so happy to have you all here with us today. Today, we are welcoming David Reichbach, VP of Product at Future Partners, who will be discussing traveler behavior in action, the destination case studies that make a difference. I hope you all enjoy today's webinar. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat throughout, and Jennifer, David, and I will get to them throughout the webinar. Now I'll pass it off to David.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the intro, Sarah. And hello, TTRA. It is absolutely my pleasure to be on with you today to present our set of destination case studies that make a difference, traveler behavior in action. As Sarah said, my name is David Reichbach. I'm the Vice President of Product Development at Future Partners. For those of you who are unfamiliar with us, Future Partners is a full-service creative insights firm. We are passionate about providing opportunity powered by insight and bringing the future of travel within reach. All of the data I'm presenting today comes from the State of the American Traveler. It is one of our nationally syndicated pieces of research that we're really proud to be able to do on behalf of the industry and share as much information as possible so that we are all working with better and more reliable data. The State of the American Traveler is the longest running tracking survey of American traveler perceptions, motivations, and behaviors. We've been doing this research since 2006. We have so much historic data on how travelers behave, what their perceptions and motivations are, and most importantly, for our strategic marketing plans, how they plan their travel. The most recent update from the data that I'm sharing with you comes from just a couple of weeks ago at the end of April. And every month we talk to over 4,000 American travelers. So we've got a great wealth of very, very recent data that I'm going to be sharing with you today. Let's start with a quick update on how American travelers are feeling right now with our snapshot on traveler sentiment. And I'm going to be showing you some time series about certain metrics that we're tracking that are not looking so good right now and some that are, so that I can give you the full picture. Currently, 30.9% of American travelers say that they today are better off or much better off than they were just a year ago. If we look at how that's been tracking over time, the darker blue line on this chart, which represents the better off or much better off, is above the lighter blue line. That's a really good sign, and it's continuing to stay slightly elevated, although we'd of course like that to be higher. Looking at the super short term, currently 60.5% say that in the next 3 months, so super short term travel expectations, American travelers expect to make travel spending, specifically leisure travel spending, a somewhat high or extremely high priority. And that has been elevated for some time. We're really excited that that particular metric is not showing any downturn, because American traveling expectations and specifically spending priorities for the next 3 months is going to be really, really critical to get us through the end of summer. This is when the data starts to take a slightly downturn, so prepare yourselves. Currently, 30% of American travelers, when we ask if right now is a good or bad time to spend money on leisure travel, equal proportions. 30% say that it's a good time or very good time, and another 30% say that it's a bad time or very bad time. This has been elevated and in a positive place for most of 2024 and almost the last 3 months of 2025. And of course, this month the two little lines on this chart meet, which is not a great sign. Currently, 42.2% of American travelers, when we ask them to look forward 1 year from now, will they be better off or worse off? Currently, 42% say that they'll be better off or much better off a year from now financially. That's been going down every month, though. And we want to see this metric grow month over month. Interestingly, the generations that show the most optimism for future financial, you know, confidence are the younger generations. We usually see that reverse, that the older generations have more confidence in their financial security, but right now is a little bit of a precarious time. When we ask people to look at the next 12 months and say, are you expecting to travel more, less, or about the same in the next 12 months as compared to the most recent 12-month period, currently 24.8% say that they expect to travel more. So a quarter of American travelers expect to travel more in the next 12 months. That's also been heading downward over time. And we usually like to see that at about a third. So seeing a number of our American traveler sentiment metrics show a little bit of a downturn the last couple months, we decided that we were going to explore reasons why. Why are Americans feeling a little bit precarious and less optimistic and less confident than they usually are? We chose three different areas to explore in the most recent edition of the State of the American Traveler. The impact of stock market performance on American traveler expectations, the impact of tariffs and trade policies, and the impacts of a recession, expected recession in the next 6 months. Um, it's important to note that American travelers do not know what's actually going to happen in global politics, but their perceptions about what they think is going to happen do actually impact their travel and spending behaviors. So it's important to actually measure what they think is going to happen, not that they are the true predictors of the future, just so we're clear. When we ask our questions about stock market volatility and how that might be impacting traveler perceptions, currently 2 out of 3 American travelers hold some form of equity in their portfolio. So 66% say that they have some investments into the stock market. Of that group, when we asked whether recent volatility in the stock market has made their sense of financial security decrease. Currently, 55.8% of that group say that their sense of financial security has somewhat or greatly decreased. And when we extrapolate that out to the average American traveler, that's over a third, 36.6% of all travelers have that decreased sense of financial security because of stock market volatility. When we look at the impact of tariffs on travel sentiment right now, we ask American travelers first, just are they aware? Are they following closely? Currently, 73.3% of American travelers say that they have been closely following recent news about US tariffs and trade policy changes. 71% of American travelers feel that new tariffs will increase their cost of living in the coming year. Not a great stat for American traveler reactions to this particular topic, but on the more positive side, over half, 52% of American travelers say that their concerns about tariffs and trade disputes have not actually changed their current travel plans. In fact, only 1 in 10, 11%, has said that they have made changes to their travel plans because of tariffs or trade policies. And a third are thinking about it, thinking about adjusting their travel. The third of the three topics is recession anxiety. We've been asking American travelers for the last couple years whether they expect an upcoming recession sometime in the next 6 months for the United States. Most major economists across the nation agree that a recession either has happened or will happen or should happen, again, from 2022 till today. And so, again, we're not going to trust American travelers to actually predict when a recession will happen, but it is important to note that their expectations will actually impact their spending decisions. Currently, 56% of American travelers agree or strongly agree that the United States will enter an economic recession sometime in the next 6 months. This had been steadily decreasing recessionary fears month over month for years, and just in the last number of months has shot up in a really kind of dramatic way for American travelers. They're currently at a similar level of expectation or recessionary fear where they were at the beginning of 2023, late 2022. So current current expectations are setting us back quite a number of years. 55% agree or strongly agree with the statement, right now I'm being careful with my money because I'm concerned about an upcoming recession. And when we look at the top deterrents or deterrents to travel, things keeping people from taking more trips than they otherwise would. 4 out of the top 5 are financial in nature. The top response, travel is too expensive right now, followed by personal financial reasons, airfare is too expensive, gasoline is too expensive, and then the fourth out of the top 5, which is not financial related, I'm too busy at work. Very interesting that that makes it into the top 5 and is edging out gasoline as a current um, travel deterrent. I actually wanted to look at time series on that just to show you how interesting that particular one is. I singled out just these three. The red line shows travel is too expensive right now, which is our current top travel deterrent. Um, it is still lower than it was in 2022 and 2023, a couple of years ago. The blue line represents gasoline was too expensive as a travel deterrent, significantly lower right now than it was a couple of years ago. But the purple line represents I'm too busy at work, and it is one of the only travel deterrents that is increasing. It's increasing in a very subtle way. It's not a super dramatic increase, but it is one of the only travel deterrents that we've been tracking for the last number of years that is showing increase. And I want you to remember that because I'm going to reference it in just a little bit when I get into my case studies. But let's look at upcoming travel plans for American travelers. Because even with all of that uncertainty, we are actually seeing a lot of positive expectation for the remainder of this year. Currently, 86% of American travelers have an existing trip planned for the remainder of this year, really healthy travel in the rest of the summer months, June, July, and August, at either meeting or outpacing last year's travel expectations at this same time. American travelers are currently expecting to take 3.7 trips in the next 12 months and have a very healthy estimated budget for travel of about $5,400 that they are setting aside for these trips. It's well above the 40 wave average that we've seen in the past and has remained elevated for most of this year to date. All of those positive signs are part of what we call recessionary resilience. We saw traveler resilience throughout the Great Recession of 2008 and 2009, and onward from then. We saw traveler resilience throughout the pandemic. Even when people weren't allowed to leave their homes, they were still dreaming and planning trips and travel. And we're seeing that still today. 34% of American travelers agree or strongly agree with the statement, right now, I consider spending money on travel to be essential, even in these crazy and uncertain economic times. 53% of American travelers, so over half, agree or strongly agree with the statement, even in an economic recession, I consider travel to be a worthwhile investment. And there's a number of different reasons why that's true. Travel adds not just to the culture and exposure to other cultures, it adds to our ability to connect with others. And that is such a truly human thing that goes beyond any of those other things that we could possibly put in its way. And that's shown most in our excitement. American travelers are currently reporting an 87.7% heightened level of excitement, a 6 to 10 on that 10-point scale of how excited are you for leisure travel in the next 12 months. We've seen that heightened level of excitement since the beginning of 2023, and it is so great that we are not seeing that downturn. Because it's one of our main measurements, and we've been watching it very, very closely to make sure that it doesn't fall like some of the other financially induced ones. So I did that very, very quickly, and I'm happy to take questions on it if there are, but that's my snapshot on the current update from the State of the American Traveler. I'm now going to jump into three different case studies that I prepared using our online dynamically filterable Insights Explorer. We call it the State of the American Traveler Insights Explorer, not the State of the American Traveler dashboard, and that's very intentional. The word dashboard means a lot of different things in our industry, and we didn't want our online tool to be confused with those. This is a specifically designed online, interactive, easy to use, and fun tool to help explore the insights from the State of the American Traveler. So we call it the Insights Explorer. And I used it today to show three different use cases or case studies that our current subscribers use to answer their own strategic marketing questions. I'm going to start with a state case study. I picked one state, one country, and one city. So I'm going to start with my state case study, and this comes from the state of Montana. Our friends at the state of Montana had a really important question about how to talk to sports travelers, specifically American travelers that travel for sporting events. They're looking at the next year at 2026 at the FIFA World Cup. They're looking at 2028 at the upcoming Olympics. They're looking at all of the different amazing amateur and semi-professional sports that happen throughout the state of Montana, and they want to really understand how to talk to this audience better. So let me dive in with some screenshots from the Insights Explorer that show how we explored this particular segment of travel for the state of Montana. When we're looking at all American travelers, currently about a quarter, 24.5% of American travelers say that they have traveled specifically to attend a sporting event in the last 12 months. That was some combination of professional sports, school-related sports, amateur sports, etc. When I filter that using our drop-down dynamic filters, and I look at just recent travelers, recent visitors to the state of Montana, um, that quarter of American travelers per percentage jumps up to 37.8%. So it's 37.8%, over a third of recent visitors to the state of Montana said that they had traveled for a sporting event. And when I filtered even further, not just to recent visitors, people who said they had visited Montana in the past 12 months, but to the future, when I look at likely future visitors to Montana, people who said that they are likely to visit Montana in the next 12 months, that proportion jumps up to 43.4%. So there is clearly a very strong overlap and correlation between sports events travel and the likelihood to visit the state of Montana, making this a really important audience for the state to be interested in. Let's dive into this particular segment's passions and hobbies. So I'm currently filtered still to likely visitors to the state of Montana, and I want to know what their passions and hobbies are. Not only do I see attending professional sports and attending college sports on the passions and hobbies list, but I also see food and cuisine. I also see international travel. I see visiting historic sites and attractions. Um, it's really important to note that no traveler is truly binary or fits neatly into boxes. There is a lot of intersectionality in the interests of American travelers, and combining great food with historical sites and sporting events is absolutely, perfect and well aligned for the Montana state brand. Let's dive into this particular segment of traveler a little deeper. So I'm still filtered to the likely visitors to the state of Montana, but I've also filtered to specifically having traveled for sports events in the last 12 months. So these are sports events travelers who are likely to visit the state of Montana in the future. We see they skew a little bit male. They're almost half millennial with an average age of 42. They're more likely than not to be married. Um, they have a higher than average annual household income with 121K. And they're a well-educated group with almost 40% having completed a graduate degree. 92.3% are excited for upcoming travel in the next 12 months. That is a higher level of excitement than the average American traveler that I showed you not, 10 slides ago. Their most desired travel, and this is totally open-ended that we make American travelers respond. Their most desired travel domestically is to New York and California. Their most desired international destinations are Italy, Canada, and France. They have a much higher and healthier expectation to travel more in the future, with 46% expecting to travel more in the next 12 months than compared to the most recent 12-month period. And they have a really healthy travel budget of 5,400. When we look at their inspiration resources, and again, I'm still filtered to likely visitors to the state of Montana who have traveled for sporting events. And I'm not just looking at the inspiration sources, such as social media, but I'm looking at it over time, with the lightest blue bar representing data from 2022, the darkest blue bar from 2025 year to date. And I can see that Facebook, Instagram, email communications, TikTok, X, formerly known as Twitter, and podcasts have all become more important to this particular segment of sports travelers who are likely to visit Montana over time. So really important to not just have the right messaging, but be on the right channels at the right time. And so when it comes to messaging, what is it about the state of Montana that is really driving desire or motivation from these travelers. This is our destination attributes rating. The purple bars represent how American travelers rated the state of Montana on each of the different destination attributes that we test. The black dotted line represents the average for all other states. So wherever the purple bar is above the black line, that means Montana is performing above average. And you'll notice that for Montana's top 5 rated attributes, they are above average by a nice healthy margin. Montana's top attributes right now are scenic beauty, exploration, new experiences, relaxation, and a place to escape. Um, Obviously, there's way more in depth that I could go into this, and the team at the Montana Office of Tourism absolutely will have value in diving into this much deeper. But this is the basis of the conversation that we had very recently at the Montana Governors Conference. So let me jump to my second case study. This is my country case study, and I call it Jamaica and the Workaholic. Now, remember, not that many slides ago, I told you to remember that the deterrent of I'm too busy at work is growing over time, and it's one of the few deterrents to American travel that is showing growth year over year. It is currently, I'm in the Insights Explorer, and I filter to all American travelers. It is currently the fourth most common deterrent cited by American travelers as why they're not taking as many trips as they otherwise would. It's currently at 23.5% when we look at the first 4 months of data combined, January, February, March, and April. When I filter to recent visitors to Jamaica, it is still in fourth place, but it jumps up to 25.2%. And when I filter even further to likely future visitors to Jamaica, it jumps up to 28%, and it is now in the third position, third most important deterrent to travel for likely future visitors, people who say they're likely to visit Jamaica in the next 12 months. This is a very important segment of travel for the island nation of Jamaica um, to be concerned about. And when we actually look at travel deterrence over time, I can see, and I'm still filtered to likely visitors to Jamaica. I can see that travel expense, personal financial reasons, airfare prices, all of them showing a decline over time. Busy at work, not enough PTO are two of the rare ones showing increase, as well as weather as a deterrent, which I thought was really funny, actually, to be one of the only other deterrents that is showing growth for likely visitors to Jamaica over time. Keep that in mind because we'll come back to weather in just a minute. But there's definitely an opportunity for Jamaica to have a "you deserve a vacation" promotion. And so if they came up with a promotion just like that, we'd want to try to identify where to put that promotion, how to get it in front of the right travelers that would have the greatest strategic impact. So going back to our Insights Explorer, I'm looking at likely visitors to Jamaica. Within the United States, they are most commonly going to live in New York, Texas, followed by California and Florida. When I look at this particular segment of travelers' recent travel behavior, they significantly outpace the average American traveler when it comes to cruise travel. They significantly outpace with the preference to stay in luxury or five-star paid accommodations. They also take more trips than the average American traveler. But I think with the other standout difference is this particular segment is showing a ton of potential value. When we look at their sentiment, they're about as excited as we saw the last time I looked at this slide for the state of Montana. But their most desired international destination in an open-ended question is Jamaica. So they are absolutely right on brand. And their anticipated travel spend is over $8,000, which is well above the national average. When we look at Jamaica's brand attributes as rated by American travelers, and this is where I wanted to bring back the weather deterrent. Weather is actually the top rated attribute for Jamaica, followed by scenic beauty, relaxation, new experiences, and fun atmosphere, as well as food and cuisine. All of those top six, well above the average for the other island destinations that we track. And so when I pull out weather specifically, just wanting to dive into that particular destination attribute, I can see that currently 73.3% of American travelers rate Jamaica as slightly good, good, or extremely good. Very few, within 2 or 3%, rated as anything less than that, any less than neutral. Sorry, and on the right side of the screen, we can see how Jamaica stacks up with the other island destinations that we track. It's just behind the Bahamas and Florida Keys, but leading Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, Aruba, Dominican Republic, and Bermuda on this very critical destination attribute that is weather. Mm, Excuse me. So, last case study, and that is my city case study. I'm calling it San Francisco and the Brand. I am a very proud San Francisco resident. I love my city to death. Um, and it breaks my heart that I very frequently see San Francisco in the news in a not quite positive light. So I wanted to explore how we might approach that from our data's perspective, and what advice we might have for the team at San Francisco Travel, who also are subscribers to this research and use this data. So I decided to highlight them as a case study. But I wanted to highlight our brand equity index. So the brand equity index is something that Future Partners developed within the last year, and it takes 6 different metrics that we've been tracking for at least 4 years now, and puts them together, compiles them into one indexed value between 0 and 100. You'll notice on the left side of the screen, I have all of the different respondents for 2025 year to date who have rated San Francisco on the different attributes that we test. And you'll see that, almost 1% are rating San Francisco at a 90 and above, which is very, very rare to do in an indexed value. More commonly, you'll have a bell curve, just like you see on screen, with the majority of people right around the middle. San Francisco currently has an average index value of 52.4, which is above the average for all city destinations that we test. The average for all city destinations is 49.7. It should be right around the halfway mark of 50. And you can actually see on all the destinations ranked on the right side of the screen, Orlando is currently the top ranked destination, although that does change every year. But for the first 4 months of data for 2025, it's at a 59.3. So not that many actual points above where San Francisco is. So don't get caught up on the number being in the 50s as any measurement of not success here. It's important to kind of understand how the different destinations compare to each other when they're ranked this way. But let's say that I wanted to dive in a little deeper to San Francisco's brand equity index and understand really what's driving it, and how do we start thinking about how to attack it or improve it. Um, we currently see that San Francisco at a 52.4 is right in line and comparable with other destinations across the country: Austin, Boston, Charlotte, and Atlanta, that each have a pretty similar um, uh, brand equity index score. And you can see on the left side of the screen the 6 different variables that make up our brand equity index. There's our variable for awareness, which is the extent to which travelers are familiar with a destination, so destination familiarity. We have reputation, the overall appeal and perceived quality of the destination among travelers. We have differentiation, how unique and distinct the destination's visitor experience is compared to others. We have energy momentum, the percentage, or I'm sorry, perception of how much the destination's popularity has increased or decreased recently. We have relevance, the likelihood that the consumer will consider visiting in the next few years, and loyalty, the degree to which consumers have visited in the past. You'll notice little speedometers for each of the different 6 um, variables, and that's meant to show how San Francisco's rating on each of those variables compares to other city destinations that we test. If we wanted to look at the very first variable, the awareness metric, we could actually click into that, and we'll see that the variable is based on destination familiarity, the question that we ask American travelers: how familiar are you with the things for visitors to see and do in San Francisco? Um, Currently, American travelers are reporting a 52% rating of slightly familiar, familiar, or extremely familiar. Well above the average for other city destinations that we test of 38.2. If we wanted to go back to our summary, and you'll notice that only one of the six little speedometers is pointed slightly to the left in the red, and that's the energy momentum. So let's say we wanted to click into that one specifically. Say that's where we want to go and understand how to really the best opportunity to focus on the San Francisco brand. Currently, 36% of American travelers, when asked the question, sorry, in the last few years, has San Francisco's popularity as a place to visit changed? The fill in the blank is from what I've seen, San Francisco is becoming anything from much more popular to much less popular. 36% say that it's becoming slightly more popular, more or much more popular. Just below that, at around 34%, is slightly less popular, less or much less popular. And then just below that is the unchanged, the other 30% remaining. Now, um, it's important to note here that looking just at the chart on the left, the more popular is still the highest proportion compared on the chart. But when you look on the right for how San Francisco is ranked against other destinations, it's currently slightly below average, an average of 41.5% here. And Nashville currently has the top spot of becoming more popular over time, or at least that's the perception amongst American travelers right now. Now, we've been tracking the brand equity index and calculating it based on variables that we've been tracking for the last 4 years. So when I look up the brand equity index for San Francisco, I can see it in time series. It was 52 in 2022, 54 in 2023, back down to 52 in 2024, and it's currently staying strong at 52 in 2025 year to date, first 4 months of data in there. Even though the perception amongst American travelers might not be as strong in terms of getting more popular over time, the actual brand equity index is not going down, is not falling off of a waterfall by any means. But the point is, we want it to go up. We want to really attack it and make the brand of the city I love to live in so much as strong as possible. So the way we might really recommend attacking getting more popular, or the buzz around getting more popular, is obviously with social and own channels. So if we dive into social media used for travel planning for likely visitors to San Francisco, we see their top social platform is actually YouTube. There are a number of different studies on the power of video to inspire travel and to have really strong impacts on traveler perceptions about a destination. So YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook up at the top, but YouTube specifically as the number one, I think, is a really important one. And actually, when we look at that same data, but over time in time series, we see that YouTube is one of the few social channels that has been growing in importance for likely visitors to San Francisco over time each year. And I don't think we can understate how important it is to put out great, amazingly powerful video content. The other strong recommendation that we would make based on the data we're seeing is on own channels. Currently, 31% of likely visitors to San Francisco say that they use official destination websites. Another 18% use an official visitor guide. Um, but the destination website is really critically important here. That 31% is higher than the national average of American travelers who use destination websites to plan generally. And when we look at that data point over time, we are also seeing growth amongst the likely visitors to San Francisco relying on destination websites. So these are just a couple of things, and again, I'm surface level here, but these are a couple of things that really matter when it comes to putting together really important strategic marketing plans. So if you wanted to do exercises like this for your own destination, filter down to your own likely traveler, understand what channels really have the greatest opportunity for the type of traveler that you want to talk to, you're going to want to become a subscriber to the State of the American Traveler. Not only do you get access to the wealth of historic data that we have been collecting and tracking over the last number of years, but you also get access to our online Insights Explorer to be able to dive in deeply with the data, filter amongst a number of different variables that we collect every month, and do all of the exercise that I did today and more, and much, much deeper. So please do not hesitate to contact us, and Jennifer's in the chat, if you're interested in hearing more about how to become a subscriber. I want to call out the sister study to the State of the American Traveler is the State of the International Traveler. It is also the longest tracking study of international inbound to the United States. It is very similar to the State of the American Traveler in that it tracks traveler perceptions, motivations, behaviors, but it's surveying the top 16 feeder markets to the United States on when you're going to take your next US trip, what are the types of experience you're going to want to have. It's professionally translated into native languages and fielded globally from our global panel providers. The QR code you have on screen is to register for a webinar that I'm giving on the State of the International Traveler tomorrow. So if you are available to come to tomorrow's webinar, please register now. It's going to be a lot of fun. This will be the first time we are sharing the top line findings from the 2025 data that we've collected thus far. And just like I said at the beginning of today's webinar, it's just so important to stay up to date on the crazy state of the world that we're in, and track it with as much data as we can, because that's how we support each other in these crazy times. The last thing I'll leave you with is just my contact info. If there's more questions you want to send my way, we do a monthly live stream free for the industry, sharing the top line findings from the State of the American Traveler. The QR code on this slide will take you to our live stream calendar. So you can not only find past recordings of live streams that we've done, if you want to catch up on some past work, you can also register for the next one. They are completely free for the industry, and we try to share as much information as we can. I think we've got lots of leftover time. So, Jennifer, if you want to come on and if there are any questions from the audience that we want to tackle.
Yeah, so there is a question that I'm answering now, but it is with text. And the question is, do you ever share the data with academics? So, David, why don't you go ahead and provide the verbal version of that response, and I'll put it in the chat as well.
Awesome. So the data that we collect as part of the State of the American Traveler, and again, we're collecting 4,000 records from a representative sample of American travelers every month. That's over 50 some thousand records in the course of a year. We've got multiple years of data that we compile. And so there's a wealth of information to do very deep dives into segmentation. We try to provide as much of that information as possible for the travel and tourism industry. This very much includes our academic friends as part of TTRA. We don't share raw data, if that's your question. We'll share cuts of the data, we'll share crosstabs of the data, we'll share as much insights as possible. But anything deeper than that, we'd have to have a side conversation. So feel free to email me separately and I'll see what I can do.
There's no further questions at this time.
Awesome. Well, if more questions come up, don't hesitate to reach out to either Jennifer or myself. We love to talk, obviously, but we love to talk about research. And, anytime you just want to brainstorm on ways that data can support the really important marketing and destination management efforts that all of you are working under, we want to support you as much as possible.
Awesome. Thank you so much, David, for sharing, and thank you, Jennifer, for keeping on top of the chat and the questions, and for also sharing your future webinars and all of your helpful information. Thank you, everyone, so much for attending today. Like David said, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to David, Jennifer, or if you reach out to the admin at TTRA.com, I'll make sure that your questions get to the right person. I will be sending out a recording of this webinar in the next coming days. And again, if you have any questions or comments or anything, please do not hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much, everyone, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.